Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of our podcast. We're so happy you've decided to join us today. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the family. I'm Sarah, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mark.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be back with you today. Sarah, I'm so excited for this episode because today we're going to dive into something super important and super useful for all English learners.
That's right, Mark. Today's topic is all about the present simple tense, but specifically, we'll be focusing on regular verbs. If you're a beginner or even an intermediate learner, this is a lesson you won't want to miss.
I totally agree, Sarah. The present simple is one of the most used tenses in English, and once you get the hang of it, you'll see how often you use it in your daily conversations. Whether you're talking about your routine, your work, your hobbies, or even basic facts about the world, the present simple is going to be your go-to tense.
Exactly. And today, we're making it easy for you to understand and use. We're going to talk about how to conjugate regular verbs in the present simple tense. These are the verbs that follow a predictable pattern, which is great because once you learn the rule, you'll be able to apply it to lots of different verbs.
That's the best part about regular verbs, right? They don't have any surprises. You just follow the same pattern and you're good to go. For example, verbs like work, play, study, and travel, they all follow the same conjugation rule in the present simple.
And trust me, these verbs come up all the time in conversations. From telling people about your day to describing your routine or explaining what you like to do, regular verbs are essential. Once you master how to use them in the present simple, you'll feel so much more confident speaking English.
And don't worry, we're going to break it down step by step. We'll start by explaining the basic rules for conjugating regular verbs in the present simple tense. Then, we'll give you lots of examples so you can see how it works in action. And by the end of this episode, you'll be ready to use the present simple in your own conversations.
Yes, and the best part is that we'll also make it fun. Learning a tense doesn't have to be boring. In fact, the present simple is really easy to learn, especially when you understand how to use regular verbs. You'll start noticing them everywhere in conversations, and that will make your English sound more natural and fluent.
Exactly. And I know that for many of our listeners, the present simple might sound a little confusing at first, especially when it comes to third-person singular verbs. But don't worry, Sarah and I are going to help you through it. We'll explain everything clearly, and you'll get the hang of it in no time.
So true, Mark. And don't forget, the present simple isn't just for talking about routines. You use it for facts, habits, and even general truths. For example, the sun rises in the east, or dogs like to play. And of course, you can use it to ask questions or make negative statements too.
Absolutely. This tense is everywhere in everyday English. Whether you're at work, talking to friends, or even reading the news, the present simple is the tense you're going to use most of the time. And by learning it well, you're setting yourself up for success in English.
I love how important and useful this tense is. And to help you get even more comfortable with it, we'll also be giving you some helpful tips along the way, as well as a quick recap at the end of the episode. So don't worry, you'll remember everything.
But before we dive deep into today's lesson, we'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying our podcast, please take a second to like this episode and subscribe to our channel. It's quick and easy, and it really helps us keep bringing you more great lessons like this one.
Yes, please. Your support means the world to us, and it encourages us to keep creating these episodes for you. And if you think someone else could benefit from this lesson, why not share it with a friend or family member who's learning English too? The more, the merrier.
Thank you so much, everyone. We truly appreciate your support. And now, let's get started. Sarah, are you ready to tackle the present simple and regular verbs?
I'm more than ready, Mark. Let's make learning English fun and easy with regular verbs in the present simple.
Here we go.
All right, Mark. Now that we've introduced the topic, let's dive right into the conjugation of regular verbs in the present simple. We're going to take it slow and explain everything so you can follow along easily. Ready?
I'm totally ready, Sarah. So, let's start with the basics. In English, the present simple tense is used to talk about things that happen regularly or repeatedly, like habits, routines, and general truths. For example, if I say, I work every day, I'm talking about a routine. It's something that happens regularly.
Exactly, Mark. And the great thing is, conjugating regular verbs in the present simple is super easy because they follow a pattern. Let's break it down. For most verbs, you just add s at the end when you use the third person singular form. So, for example, I play football every weekend. She plays football every weekend.
That's right. So, if we take the verb play, you can see that when I talk about myself, I say I play. But when Sarah talks about she or he, we add the s at the end and say plays. And this happens with almost every regular verb in English.
But wait, we're not done yet. We need to talk about the positive form, the negative form, and how to make questions in the present simple with regular verbs. Let's start with the positive form. So, as I said, most verbs stay the same in the first person singular, I, and second person singular, you. But when we use he, she, or it, third person singular, we add the s to the verb. Here are some examples. I work every day. You study English every day. He plays tennis on weekends.
Exactly. You can see how simple it is. The s is added when the subject is he, she, or it. That's the only change. Now, let's talk about negative sentences. In the negative form, you need to use the auxiliary verb do and its negative form don't or doesn't for the third person singular. For example, if we take the verb work, I don't work on Sundays. You don't play basketball. She doesn't study at night.
Right. And here's a little trick to remember. When you're talking about he, she, or it in the negative form, you use doesn't instead of don't. So, in the sentence, she doesn't study at night, we don't add the s to the verb study because doesn't already carries the tense.
Exactly. And the same rule applies when making questions in the present simple. For regular verbs, we use the auxiliary verb do or does for he, she, or it. For example, when I want to ask about your routine, do you work every day? Does she play tennis on weekends? Do they study together? It's really straightforward.
Yes, and don't forget, for questions with the third person singular, we use does and know z with the verb. So, for example, does he like pizza? Does she run every morning?
Great. So now let's summarize the main points before we move on to more examples. 1. For positive sentences, add s to the verb in the third person singular form. He, she, it. Example, she reads a book every day. 2. For the negative form, use don't for I, you, we, they, and doesn't for he, she, it, with the base form of the verb no s. Example, I don't like coffee. Example, he doesn't work on Sundays. 3. For questions, use do for I, you, we, they, and does for he, she, it before the subject, and again, the verb stays in its base form. Example, do you study English? Example, does she play the piano?
Perfect summary. Mark. And you know what? We're going to make sure you have plenty of practice with this, so it sticks in your mind. We've got some great exercises coming up in the next section, but let's take a minute to review these rules once more. So remember, the present simple tense is all about routines and habits. You use regular verbs in their base form for the first person, second person, and plural forms, and add s for the third person singular. When we make negatives or questions, we use do, does, as our auxiliary verb.
Exactly. And I know it can be a lot to take in, but once you start practicing, these rules will become second nature. You'll be using the present simple without even thinking about it. So, make sure you stay with us for the next part where we'll dive into even more examples and exercises to help you practice.
Great, Mark. Now that we've covered the basics of conjugating regular verbs in the present simple, let's move on to some practice. After all, practicing is the best way to really get comfortable with the present simple tense.
Absolutely, Sarah. To make things even clearer, let's do some examples and mini exercises. Are you ready to work your brain, Sarah?
Haha, always ready, Mark. Let's start with the simple exercise. We're going to give you some incomplete sentences, and you'll need to fill in the blanks with the correct form of the verb.
Exactly. Here's the first sentence. I work from Monday to Friday. All right, listeners, how would you conjugate the verb work in this sentence?
It's a positive sentence, and since the subject is I, we don't add s to the verb. So the correct answer is I work from Monday to Friday.
Well done. Now, here's another sentence, but this time, let's make it a negative sentence. The sentence is, she like to eat vegetables.
For this sentence, the subject is she, and since it's a negative sentence, we use doesn't for third person singular. But remember, when we use doesn't, the verb stays in its base form. So, the correct sentence is, she doesn't like to eat vegetables.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to a question. Here's the sentence. He study at the library.
Ah, this is a question. So we start with does for third person singular, and the verb study stays in its base form. The correct sentence is, does he study at the library? Ah, this is a question. So we start with does for third person singular, and the verb study stays in its base form. The correct sentence is, does he study at the library?
Great. You're all doing an awesome job. Now, let's make it a little bit more challenging and use plural subjects. Here's another sentence, this time with the subject they. They play basketball every weekend. Perfect, you're getting the hang of it. Now, let's move on to a sentence with I, but in a negative form. Here's the sentence. I watch TV in the morning.
Or this one, we use don't with I, and the verb watch stays in its base form. The correct sentence is, I don't watch TV in the morning.
Well done. You're really mastering this. Now, let's give you a quick summary exercise with some sentences to fill in. Listen carefully. Exercise 1. Complete the sentences with the correct form of the verb in the present simple. 1. She go to the gym every day. 2. We not eat meat. 3. My friends play video games on weekends. 4. I like to read books before bed. 5. He not study on Fridays.
All right, listeners, it's your turn. If you answered these correctly, congratulations. You've got a solid understanding of regular verbs in the present simple. But don't worry, we're not done yet.
Exactly, Sarah. And now I'm going to share a little tip to make your learning even more effective. When you're learning regular verbs, try to practice with everyday sentences. For example, take sentences you say often, like, I go to work at 9 a.m. They play football after school. This will help you integrate the present simple into your daily routine, and you'll feel more comfortable using it.
That's a great tip, Mark. The more you use these verbs in real-life sentences, the easier it will be to become fluent in the present simple. And remember, repetition is key. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. You can even play little role-playing games with your friends or family to make it even more fun.
Exactly. So, let's quickly recap what we've learned today. The present simple with regular verbs is easy to use once you understand the rule. Just remember that. 1. For I, you, we, and they, the verb stays in its base form. 2. For he, she, and it, you add -s to the verb. 3. In negative sentences and questions, use do, does as auxiliary verbs, and the verb stays in its base form. 4. And, of course, the more you practice, the more fluent you'll become.
That's right. And now, to wrap up this part of our lesson, I encourage you to keep practicing these exercises at home. You can also listen to conversations in English and try to identify the present simple verbs you hear. This will help reinforce your knowledge.
Yes, and in our next episode, we'll do a quick recap to see how much you've improved and, of course, get ready to dive into other verb tenses in English. But for now, I think we've covered the basics pretty well.
All right, everyone! We've come to the end of today's lesson, and I hope you're feeling a lot more confident with regular verbs in the present simple. Mark, what do you think? Did we make it clear and easy to understand?
I think we did, Sarah. We covered a lot of ground today. The basic rules for conjugating regular verbs, how to form negative sentences and questions, and of course, how to practice in your everyday life. By now, our listeners should feel ready to use the present simple like a pro.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about learning the rules, it's about practicing and using the present simple in your daily conversations. Whether you're talking about your routine, what you like to do, or describing general truths, regular verbs are key to making those sentences sound natural.
And don't forget, the more you use it, the easier it gets. Practice makes perfect. You can also listen to English conversations, read books, or even write about your daily life to practice using the present simple with regular verbs. The more you do it, the more fluent you'll become.
That's a great point, Mark. And if you ever get confused or feel like you need more practice, just come back to this episode and listen again. Repetition is a powerful tool in language learning, and we'll be here to guide you every step of the way.
Yes, exactly. And we've got some more exciting lessons coming up. In future episodes, we'll dive deeper into other tenses and even look at some tricky, irregular verbs. But for now, mastering the present simple is a huge step forward.
Absolutely. So let's quickly recap what we've learned today. 1. The present simple tense is used to talk about routines, habits, and general truths. 2. Regular verbs follow a simple pattern. For most subjects, the verb stays in its base form, but for third-person singular he, she, it, we add s. 3. In negative sentences and questions, we use do, does as auxiliary verbs, and the main verb stays in its base form. 4. And, of course, practice is key. Keep using the present simple in your daily conversations, and you'll get more comfortable with it over time.
Perfect summary, Sarah. And before we go, we'd like to ask you a couple of things. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it helpful, please like this episode and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep making these lessons for you.
Yes, please. Your support means a lot to us. And if you think someone else would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with your friends or family who are also learning English. The more, the merrier.
And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about today's lesson or want to share your own practice sentences, leave a comment below. We'll be sure to check them out and maybe even answer some of them in future episodes.
That's right, Mark. We love hearing from our listeners and helping you along your English learning journey. So, keep practicing, stay motivated, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you, everyone. We hope you have a great time practicing your English, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.